Let's talk San Lan Hero. I don't know if I said that right. Now this video, hero talents in fuck my fucking life. Just can't be this hard. That's what she said. Legends, what's up? Let's talk San Lan hero talents on the Blood Death Knight in the War Within. Now this video has been made in collaboration with the Wowhead guide writer Mandel, who wrote an article back in December 2023 raising a number of issues around the gameplay loop that these talents were going to create. Now the issue is, Alpha's gone live and all of these issues are still present. But is it all doom and gloom? Let's find out. I'll also put a link to the article in the description if you want to check it out yourself as well. So the simple version of this talent tree and this gameplay, explain it to me like I'm 5. You're going to fill out the talent tree, and once you've done that, when you go into a situation, a dungeon, a raid, a pack, whatever, you're going to press Vampiric Blood. Then you are going to mash the fuck out of Heart Strike, which turns into Vampiric Strike, over and 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 over. You're going to Death Strike once every 8 seconds to maintain the buff from coagulopathy, and then when Vampiric Blood drops off, you're going to hammer as many Death Strikes as you can so you can press Vampiric Blood again and do the same thing all over again. It's kind of crazy and extremely degen. But we want a little more info than that, so let's dive into the talent tree and have a look. So Vampiric Strike. So this heals you for 3% of your max health and grants you Essence of the Blood Queen, increasing your haste by 1.5% up to 10.5% for 20 seconds. This at full level goes to 7 stacks. So remember, we're reviewing this at max hero talents obtained. So when you're starting off, you'll have 5 stacks. When you get further talents, you get 2. So you can go to 7 stacks. Then you've got a choice node, Newly Turned or Vampiric Speed. So this is situational and content based, obviously. Newly Turned means that our B-Res revives people at full health and gives them an absorption shield, or Vampiric Speed means that Death's Advance causes you to run faster and also impacts your group. Blood-Soaked Ground, while standing in your Death and Decay, physical damage taken is reduced by 5% and your chance to gain Vampiric Strike is increased by 5%. So another stand in the D&D mechanic. You've got another choice node, Vampiric Aura or Bloody Fortitude, situational and content based once again. Vampiric Aura is going to increase your leech by 3%, and when you've activated Lichborn, the leech bonus is increased to 100% and affects 4 allies. Bloody Fortitude amplifies Icebound Fortitude and further reduces damage by 20%, and killing enemies reduces the cooldown by 3 seconds. Infliction of Sorrow. When Vampiric Strike damages an enemy affected by Blood Plague, it consumes the disease to deal 200% of the remaining damage to the target. While Gift of the San Lan is active, so when you have Vampiric Blood up, Vampiric Strike no longer consumes the disease and instead extends the duration of your diseases by 3 seconds and 20% of the remaining damage to the enemy, meaning you basically don't bother using Blood Boil when Vampiric Blood is up. Frenzied Bloodthirst. So as I mentioned at the start, the original node for Vampiric Strike gives you 5 stacks and you'll have that whilst leveling. This node increases the stack amount by 2, which gives you 7 in total. It also increases the damage of your Death Strike by 2% per stack. The Blood is Life. Vampiric Strike has a chance to summon a Blood Beast to attack your enemy. Each time it attacks, it stores a portion of the damage dealt, and when it dies, it explodes, dealing 50% of all that damage accumulated to nearby enemies. You also get healed for the same amount. Visceral Regeneration. This gives your Heart Strike a 3% chance per stack of Essence of the Blood Queen to refund a rune. Now Vampiric Strike doubles the chance to refund a rune also, which means basically infinite runes for a short window during your Vampiric Blood when you're going full degen. Insight Terror. So Heart Strike extends the duration of Essence of the Blood Queen by 0.5 seconds, and Vampiric Strike increases the extension by 100%. Last choice node here, Pact of the San Lan or Sanguine Scent. Same as all the other choice nodes, you make a choice for your content style. Pact of the San Lan means you store 50% of all shadow damage dealt to you into your Blood Beast and deal additional damage when it explodes. This is RNG though, depends if you get a proc at the right time. Sanguine Scent, however, gives your Death Strike a 15% chance to trigger Vampiric Strike when dealing damage to enemies below 35%, so I'm kind of leaning like that's going to probably be the better throughput choice, but obviously alpha, early days. And finally, the capstone, Gift of the Sandland. So when you press Vampiric Blood, you gain Gift of the Sandland, and this means that your Heart Strike turns into Vampiric Strike whilst Vamp Blood is active. No proc fishing for that whatsoever, and that's how you're going to go on your degenerative rampage to build your 7 stacks. So what are the gameplay loop issues that actually come with these hero talents that feed into our class talents? So I was speaking to Blood DK Jesus Mandel when I got over to Alpha, just seeking some guidance around hero talents, play styles, what talent setups impact them, what feeds off one another. And this is actually the glaring issue with Sandland straight off the bat, is that it really locks down your talent choices and takes away a lot of flexibility. And that's due to the fact that they feed off one another heavily, which is fine. That's normally a great thing. However, if there's no flexibility with it, it kind of tends to lose a little bit of flavor. Now, keep in mind that this is really early days in Alpha, and they actually just announced yesterday a post that has changes incoming to all 3 DK specs. So who knows what changes are on the way. I'll get this video out, it'll change, and I'll take credit for them. It's all good. Now on the screen here is your talent setup that you will be running pretty much forced with the Sandland hero talents. We don't really know yet around Ossuary versus Hemostasis, and this will likely be based around target count. Ossuary might be your raid option, Hemostasis likely better in Mythic Plus with the extra targets. If you wanted Purgatory, or if you didn't want Purgatory, you can drop that and pick up Perseverance of the Ebon Blade. But that is pretty much all the freedom that you are going to have in this build, and that's due to that gameplay loop feeding off these talents. So during your Vampiric Blood window, you'll basically be ignoring Blood Boil, and the plan is to spend your Blood Boil charges just prior to pressing Vampiric Blood and nearly emptying your runic power. Once you've pressed Vampiric Blood, it's basically spam time. You are just hitting Vampiric Strike. You'll ignore Death and Decay unless you're at 4+ targets. Your aim will be to hit Death Strike only once every 8 seconds to ensure you keep the buff from Coagulopathy, and everything else in your world is just pressing Heart Strike, which is Vampiric Strike because it changes over when you've pressed VB. Outside of Vampiric Blood, you generally want to be wary of pressing your Blood Boil as well. And this is due to the proc of Vampiric Strike consuming your Blood Plague when you actually get a proc. So this then forces you to Blood Boil immediately before or immediately after a Death Strike in order to guarantee the longest possible duration on your Blood Plague before a Vampiric Strike procs up and absorbs it. And then you're going to instantly apply it via Blood Boil again if you do get a proc. You want to trigger as many Death Strikes as possible when you are not in Vampiric Blood, so when it's on cooldown, to reduce the cooldown on Vampiric Blood, which you're doing via your talent interlink with 2 of 2 points in Red Thirst. As a result, you're also taking all of the improved Vampiric Blood talents that feed into that gameplay loop window because you want to extend your Vampiric Blood for as long as possible to make the most of this. And you can kind of see the lack of choice now that goes along with that. Sandland, when played well, comes close to a 30% haste buff, which actually devalues haste as a stat from any other resource, be it food, gear, enchants, and it's multiplicative as well. So it's 10% from Bone Shield, 5% from D&D. Combine that, you're actually looking at around 50% haste buff from all sources outside Lust. And when Lust is going, if you're playing this right, you're probably looking at around 95% haste, which is just bonkers and leads to you kind of avoiding haste on your gear if this goes through that way. So this is obviously massive and extremely powerful, and you can actually maintain 7 stacks fairly easy, especially in dungeons and stand and deliver raid encounters. The issues come though when there's area of denial or you drop combat, for example, and things become hard to hit or target, or you've just got nothing to hit. And then you drop stacks and then you have to rebuild those stacks with no bonus haste. Now, early stages, but the contrast between Sandland and Deathbringer is just crazy. Deathbringer, the other hero talent pick, is actually a fantastic tree. It's got so many powerful passives. It does what it says it's going to do. It's really smooth to play with. It's not as degen, and I'm going to get a video out about that shortly, but it's going to lose to Sandland just because of the haste buff. It's just crazy. There's no real choice in that if you're after min-max, and this gameplay loop is extremely degen, which generally hasn't been viewed in a really positive way from the community when we've had things like this before in tier sets. There was a lot of feedback provided around gameplay loops where we saw people into spam piloting that one button, which is generally always Heartstrike. It's a really interesting concept to see a hybrid use allocated to Vampiric Blood, you know, a steady state, readily accessible defensive cooldown that we've always had, now triggered into an offensive button. Blood has decent options to fill the gaps, Lichborn, Icebound Fortitude, AMS, so I do wonder how this is going to go in regards to its gameplay impacts, I suppose. You know, people will be really used to using VB as a defensive, trading it in for an offensive, and then not having it there when they need it, perhaps. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence around how it sits with defensive abilities being turned into offense. I'm sure some will love them. I'm keen as to hear your thoughts in the comments below, but this is currently where we're sitting on alpha. Little bit of feedback around that to let you know where we are. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you all next time.